just excited about the opportunity that we have here and for the next hour. So I have some slides prepared, and I'm going to kind of go through the slides, and at the end, I'll have some time. We can do some Q&A, and I'll answer any questions you have about advertising, about social media, and I'll share a little bit of my story to kind of help give you guys some context as far as some of my background and how I got to where I'm at. So if you can hear me real quick, if you can hear me and see my picture, do me a favor and just go ahead and like put a 1 in the chat. I want to make sure that you guys can hear me okay and that there's no internet connection issues or anything like that. So if that's possible, we can do that real quick before I get started, just to make sure. And got it. Perfect. Awesome. We are good to go. Okay. So today, what I want to talk about are these topics in front of me. Why Facebook advertising is the best way to promote your business. We're talking about the secret to finding your target audience. I want to share with you how to create the perfect offer to advertise on Facebook. And then I want to share with you guys also a simple formula that you can copy to get people to click on your ads. And we'll talk a little bit how to combine all this to set up a winning Facebook ad campaign. And then we'll also do a Q&A. So, but before I get started in this, I just want to share with you who I am. If you see this picture, this is my family. That is my son, Asher. He's 2 years old. That's my wife, Kayla. This is our daughter, Finley. She is 4 years old, and not in the picture that you can tell is our daughter, Nora, who will be born in June. And so I got started in advertising now probably about 10 years ago. And so everybody has a dream, and my dream growing up was to be a radio DJ. And so I went to school for communications and marketing and started pursuing radio. And then 2006, social media started becoming a really big thing. And so nobody at the radio station really knew what to do when it came to social media. And I just so happened to be at the time kind of getting my start. And so I basically started learning everything and anything I could about social media, about Facebook, about Twitter. And I started learning how to build communities online. And so fast forward a few years, I remember one day I was in the studio and I was talking to the DJ. And I was like, you know what? I really feel like, at the time YouTube just became a platform. And I told him, I was like, you know what? I really feel like one day there's going to be people on YouTube who are kind of doing what we're doing inside the studio. And he looked at me and he's like, yeah, you know what? You're right, Adrian. I could see that too. And so then as the industry started to get smaller and smaller and harder and harder to progress, I decided to leave radio and pursue digital marketing full time. I ran some social media communities for Live Nation. So if you guys are familiar with like House of Blues Dallas and some of the other House of Blues venues, I ran a lot of their communities. And basically during that time, I was building community online. And I came to the realization that all I'm doing is connecting somebody who's searching for something and sending them to a website where they're either going to take that thing that I'm trying to connect them with, or they're going to leave. And at that point, my mind started really thinking about, well, is it possible if I were to be very intentional about who I was trying to reach, and it was possible for me to be very intentional about connecting them to what they were looking for. And so that thought process led us to move to Oklahoma City, where we started, my wife and I started working at a church called Life Church based out of Oklahoma City. And I basically got to learn exactly that. So with about 6 months of us moving to Oklahoma City, I came to the realization that it is possible. It's entirely possible to find a certain group of people online, regardless of whoever they are, figure out what their pain points and their problems are, and then lead them to take a very specific step and help them solve that pain point and those problems through content, through your products, through your services. And so what I've learned from then in the past 10 years, I'm going to share with you guys today. So I'm really excited about this. And I'm really excited kind of about some of the content that I'm going to share. So that's a little bit about who I am. But what I want to do is I want to get into why Facebook advertising is the best way to promote your business. If you look at some of the statistics and stats with Facebook advertising, I mean, it is the social media giant, hands down. When I talk about Facebook, I also want you guys to think about that I'm also talking about Instagram. Facebook does own Instagram. So when I talk about Facebook, think of Instagram as well, because the two go hand in hand. And so if you look at it, Facebook alone has 2.5 billion monthly active users. And so right away, if there's whoever it is that you want to find, they're on Facebook. It doesn't matter if, you know, they're the CEO of a company or if they're the, you know, the new newly married couple, you know, that's in your community. They're there on Facebook. So that access and gives us incredible ability to source and look at tracking and source data, targeting. This is from advertising perspective, Facebook is by far the less riskiest platform to advertise on. And I'll talk a little bit more about why that is in a bit. Like I said, it's the largest social media site and it's not going anywhere. You know, and now that Facebook, you know, and maybe you guys have used Facebook from time to time from a social media perspective, but out of curiosity, has anybody ever actively ran Facebook ads for their business in the past? If so, you can just kind of put a 1 in the chat. I'd be kind of curious to see if people have. So yeah, so we do have some people that have run Facebook ads. Awesome. So you guys might know a little bit about the power of Facebook advertising. And now when you compare it to other types of advertising, you might know a little bit about how this is, you know, a little bit of a less risk of a platform. Now, I'll be honest, when I first started learning Facebook ads, I realized like this is a juggernaut of a platform to try and understand. And as a business owner, I completely understand that, you know, there's hard-earned money that you're putting into a platform, and there is a little bit of uncertainty whether or not you know if this is going to work and the fear that can come with that. I completely understand that. And so my hope is that if you've been apprehensive about advertising on Facebook because of the complexity of it or the unknown, that, you know, through this training and through this information that I'm about to share with you guys, that it will help you overcome that fear and uncertainty. So let's take a look at some of the other aspects of why Facebook is a little bit better than some of these other, you know, forms of advertising. So for me, with my background being in radio, I understood that all radio stations do is cater to a certain demographic, and then there's ad people that go around and try to sell ads to businesses that want to reach that demographic. But the problem with radio is that it's not that people don't listen to radio. People do listen to radio. The fact is that radio is extremely expensive, and the tracking when it comes to radio is very hard to concisely pinpoint that these results came from this ad. Okay, and so with Facebook, I can run an ad and I can say, for a matter of fact, this point of sale or this point of contact or this touch of influence came from my Facebook ad. With radio, it's really hard to distinguish that. And the same way with TV. TV is kind of the similar fashion. So when you look at traditional forms of advertising, you know, you look at TV stations, the same thing, shows cater to certain demographics. And if you want to reach a certain demographic, you can advertise during that time on TV. But with Facebook, it's a little bit different, and you have more control over it. So this is kind of looking at like billboards is kind of the same way. You know, billboards are expensive. I recently kind of was doing some research for a campaign that I was thinking about running, and I was just out of curiosity, wanted to see what the cost of running a billboard campaign was. And when I saw the cost of what it was in you know, associate with that campaign, I just went back to Facebook, because I was like, I have better control over my Facebook ads. I know exactly who I can target with my Facebook ads. I can see the data associated with these Facebook ads to really understand exactly whether or not these campaigns are going to be effective. And so therefore I just said, I'm not even gonna bother with it. And so then when you look at Twitter, YouTube, and Google, and some of the other platforms that are on there, I think where Facebook has a leg up on some of these other platforms is the targeting. So to kind of paint a picture for you of how the targeting works within Facebook, I'm going to share and show you guys just a little bit about how Facebook tracks it and does its targeting. And so if you think about it, you know, from the perspective of how Facebook has tons of different pages. So any page that you like, you know, whether you follow a certain show, whether you follow a certain magazine, whether you follow a certain, you know, celebrity, or whether it's a local, you know, grocery store, all those are data points that Facebook then allows advertisers to access so that they can use those to target. Not only that, but then there's also other aspects of targeting where you can use custom forms of targeting. So for example, if you have an email list of buyers, for example, is one way that you can target. So you upload that list into Facebook, and through that you can source it. And then basically Facebook will match that email address with a profile, and then it gives you that direct connection of how you can target those people. Also, there's a piece of code that you can put on your website where the code will then allow you to retarget people and target them while they're on Facebook. So if you've ever seen something where, you know, maybe you're on a store and you're looking at a particular item, you know, whether it be a piece of clothing or maybe it was something for your home, or, you know, and then all of a sudden you go back on Facebook or Instagram and you see that ad. That's how that works, is they have a piece of code on their site that follows you around. And so targeting from, it's kind of secret to whenever you're trying to find your target audience, because there's a formula that you can follow that when you put the formula together, it's really what makes your Facebook ad successful. And so what I want you to do is I want you to see this little diagram, and whenever you go to run a Facebook ad campaign, I want you to think of this diagram. Okay, you think of these 3 different circles, you see how they overlap, and then you see in the middle, there's like the red part, and the red part's like the perfect pinpoint bullseye. So what's filling in these circles are the different categories of what you can do to find your target audience. So for example, in your mind, you have probably an ideal customer for your business, and they are probably, you know, have these different associations with them. It could be a certain age, it could be a certain gender, it could be a certain, you know, educational status. Like all those things that you're thinking of in your mind can be found on Facebook. So what the target audience is when you combine those and you overlap them together. So for example, if you think of somebody whose favorite magazines, you know, are People magazine, and maybe they, you know, watch a certain news program, and then maybe they follow, you know, a certain celebrity, and then maybe they also go to different associations for their job. When you layer those together inside of Facebook, that's where you find your sweet spot. So the thing is that if you don't necessarily understand or know how to do that, the next best thing that you can do, and this is what I do when I start off all my campaigns, is you create what's called digital personas. So if you've heard of a digital persona before, you know, you can raise your hand or you can put a 1 in the chat. If not, that's totally fine. For me, about 5 years ago, I did is basically, it's a digital representation of who you're trying to reach. Okay, so this right here is the key thing of what you can do and how you can find who your ideal audience is. So you think about this person in your mind of who your ideal customer is, and you list out all these certain characteristics and all these certain qualities, and at the end you have a digital representation of that person. So for example, for this example, our primary person could be Marketing Mary. You know, she's a professional marketer, she's a VP, you know, she runs a medium-sized company, you know, she has her MBA, you know, she has 2 kids, she's, you know, 42, and her goals are this and her problems are this. And so through that, now you know who your person is, you go into Facebook's platform and you start layering that in there, and then all of a sudden Facebook creates an audience of people that you can target.
Chamber of Commerce, this is Laura.
So,
yes, it is.
So right here, what I want to show you is this is the part of Facebook's targeting that I wanted to break down for you, and I want to make this this can't. I mean, for me, when I first saw this was very complex. I'm like, what is this? What does this all this mean? You know, and so for me, what this is right here is basically, this is kind of the way that you can find that audience that I was kind of associated with. So at the top on number 1, if you were to import an audience into Facebook, you can then select that email list and you can use that for targeting. If you wanted to look at people by a certain zip code out of here, and then you can put a radius around it. So I want to target everybody within a 2-mile radius of my zip code. and it will populate a certain audience percentage. Let me do this. Let me stop my video and let me see if that helps. Okay. Sorry about that. Okay, so we'll start over right here, this slide. So number one, so if you have an email list or an audience of people that you have from maybe like a CRM, or you can import that into Facebook, and then you can select that here. You can, through here, you can actually get people living in specific cities, specific states, specific zip codes, you know, and then you can put that here. You can also do a certain mile radius around that zip code. So if you wanted to target everybody within a 2-mile radius of your business, that's totally possible. Certain age, narrow down that way. Facebook allows you to target anybody from 18 to 65 plus, and you can kind of narrow down those age ranges as well. Of course, you can target by gender, and you can also target by specific languages. And then here under 6 is the detailed targeting. So this is what I was talking about earlier. You know, I was talking about how like all the different Facebook pages that you like, you can pull up and you can access as an advertiser. So if I wanted to target to, or if I wanted to advertise to somebody who liked, for example, Costco's Facebook page, then at that point, I could pull that up. How did you get to the screen to input? I'll share that with you in a second, Tessa. So that is so right here. So yeah, so within the detailed targeting is basically any Facebook page that is on Facebook that you like, and then that's kind of where it comes up as well. So thinking, you know, in your mind, we're kind of going on this journey of trying to figure out who our ideal audience is, figuring out where they're hanging out online, figuring out what their interests are. We come up with this digital persona of this person, and then from there we take that information and put it into Facebook, and then Facebook creates this audience. And so now we have an idea of who we're trying to reach. And once we have that idea of who we're trying to reach, then we can start focusing in on kind of what our offer is and what our ad's going to look like, and what is our copy is going to look like. So now what I really want to talk with you guys about is how to create the perfect offer to advertise on Facebook. Now, if you take this, these next couple things that I'm going to share with you, this will apply for anything. It doesn't necessarily, you know, you can take these principles and you can apply it to any sort of advertising. But for this example, I'm going to share with you how it applies to Facebook. And one of the things I learned from my mentor is who is this guy named Todd, who really shared with me is like, hey, when I'm talking about it, you need to make your offer just like a sin offer is what he calls it. It needs to be superior, it needs to be irresistible, and it needs to be a no-brainer. So if you can just remember sin offer, superior, irresistible, and no-brainer. And when you combine those 3 things together to create your offer, what you're going to promote on Facebook, that's where you can really stand above the competition. And so what I want to do is I want to kind of break this down. So if we're to create a sin offer, basically what that is, it's an offer that's superior than our competitors. So if we want to create something that's superior than our competitors, we have to understand and know what our competitors are offering. So then we look at it, well, what can we do to basically raise the bar from our competitors to make ours offer a little bit better? And then we also need to make it to where it's irresistible to our audience because of the value proposition that we're going to give them. So if it's irresistible to our audience, we need to understand what is it that our audience wants. And then we just need to eliminate all risk associated with our offer. If we can eliminate the risk associated with our offer, then it becomes super easy and it's a no-brainer. So I wanted to share with you what an example of this looks like so that you can have some parameters around it. So this is an example from a book that I recently picked up, and it was for a marketing book. And this particular marketing book was nothing really special about this book. The content in this book was probably not a lot different than probably what I've gotten, you know, I've read before. But one of the things that made this like what's called a sin offer is everything that was compiled on top of it. So not only did you get the book, but when you ordered the book, you also got some of these other bonus materials. And it gave you a very specific, steps of what you could take for you to get this. So you got like some video training series, you got some swipe files, you got some, and so when you layer all that together and you stack all those things together, this thing for me became like a no-brainer. Like I didn't have to think twice about pulling out my credit card. I didn't think twice about like do that better than else. kind of wow moment that you want to create whenever you're promoting something on Facebook, because that's really is what's going to help your advertising stand out above everybody else. And you think about it, like with Facebook ads, what we're doing is we're fighting for competition based upon everybody who's scrolling on their newsfeed. So they're scrolling, and they see your ad, and then you have to capture their attention within a few seconds. And so when you can capture their attention within a few seconds, and then they see what you have and what you're offering, and that offering of what you're doing in that ad is way superior than anything else that they've seen in that time, then that's kind of when they're going to react. That's when they're going to take out their credit card and purchase it. So, but there's a way that you can do that within your ad copy. And so what I want to share with you now is just kind of a simple ad copy that I can do, that I follow. And this really helps to get people to click ads. And so for this, what I'd like for you to kind of think about and remember is just these three concepts. You have a hook, you have a story, and then you have your offer. So hook, story, and offer. And if you can think of a hook, you know, in marketing, they always talk about you need to have a good hook with your campaign. And so here's some examples of some hooks that I've used in the past that are really help when it comes to Facebook ads. And I'll show you some examples of these in ads so you can kind of get an idea and concepts of around, like, you know, what these particular hooks are like. So the first one is just kind of an interesting question hook. And then the other one is a strong statement declaration hook. You can lead with facts, you can lead with the metaphors, you can do it with a story hook, you can do it with a description hook, you can do it with a quotation hook. But the thing is, and the key thing that you do with these hooks is you lead with it in your ad copy, because what's going to happen is when you understand who your audience is, creating them properly on Facebook, and then you come up with a hook or an angle that's really going to capture their attention, you're going to have them really start to read the rest of your ad. So kind of an example of what this looks like. And then the story. So then the story part of the ad copy is basically done for you to kind of create empathy. It's to create a connection with your audience. It's to build rapport with your audience. And then it positions you or your product as the guide that can solve their problem. And that's kind of where it really helps, because when you're advertising on Facebook at first, you may be advertising to people that may not necessarily know who you are, but they may know that your service can help them if you can position it in a way where your copy can really kind of bridge that gap between what their problem is and what the solution is, and then how your product or service can kind of bring those two together. And so this is kind of a framework that I pulled training that I did a while back, and it was really, really impactful, because it really kind of refocused my attention. And I think sometimes, a lot of times, as business owners, we can often, and by default, and it's not necessarily, you know, like a thing that we knowingly do. Sometimes we unknowingly do it, but a lot of times, you know, as businesses, we might position ourselves as the hero. And really, what this framework does is it really positions the person, the audience, as the hero, and then it positions yourself as the guide, and then it positions your product or your service as the plan that kind of helped them overcome their problem. And so kind of what this looks like is this framework, and it's used a lot in movies. You know, if you're familiar with Star Wars, Luke Skywalker and Yoda and all that, this is the same like framework that has been used hundreds of times in movies. But what happens is you have a character who's your audience. They have a problem. It could be that they don't necessarily know, you know, what next week is going to look like, and then they come across you and your business in your ad, and all of a sudden now they're connected because they see you as the guide, and then you give them a plan, and that plan is basically what your ad copy is and how it's positioned, and then through that it gives them a call to action, and the call to action is your service or your product that helps them overcome that problem. So that's a good framework that I use, and I always think about it when I'm positioning, you know, like when I'm writing my copy, I always try to think of who that person is and who that audience is, what their pain points and their problems are, and how I can help them. And then from there, your offer, and we kind of talked about this, is you want it to be a sin offer, right? You want it to be, you know, superior, irresistible, and you want it to be something that is obviously is a no-brainer. So that's when you can introduce your product or solution that can solve the problem. So really what I like to do now is just kind of show you some examples of how this works within some different ads and different ad copies that I've written and I've used in some of my campaigns. So for this first one, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit because I know this might be kind of hard to read because of the text. But what I'd like to do is just kind of go through and break down some of this copy and how it applies to kind of what we're talking about. So for the first one, I'll do this one on the left, and what I'll do is I'll just read this to you, and then I'll kind of take some stops and pauses, and then I'll kind of break down exactly what the angle is with this, okay? So for this first one on the left, it says, "Dear nurses, the last few weeks have been strange, uncertain, and at times overwhelming. We know these are unprecedented times, and we want to thank you for what you're doing." So immediately, right off the bat, I'm talking specifically who I know I'm talking to. I'm talking to nurses. I'm relating with them because we all know that these last few weeks, have been weird and strange and uncertain and times overwhelming. And then we talk about, and so then I start to transition from that, and I say, soon the world will start moving again, and when it does, we are here for you. For those who have lost their jobs, been furloughed, or are looking for a change of scenery, we have an incredible opportunity in Augusta, Georgia, and we'd love to invite you to our next hiring event. So the offer of this ad is a hiring event. And the goal and what I'm wanting to do is create empathy with this community of nurses who have been through a crazy time, to help them see that if you're in a position where you're looking for a new opportunity, this could be that opportunity. So then I go on and I say, now to qualify for this exclusive opportunity, we're looking for registered nurses. And I start to get into the specifics of what we're looking for. And then I say, if you meet the above qualifications, this is what we'll provide, right? So now I'm starting to make it to where this offer is not just about a change of scenery or a change in event, but I'm starting to layer on the value of what you could receive, because it says, if you meet the above qualifications, we'll provide airfare, hotel, and meals for Canadian and US nurses. And so then I go on to say that create more empathy and connection. We know these times have been challenging. Rest assured, we'll get through this and be stronger as a community because of it. And so then I give them a very specific next step of what I want them to do, which is to click the ad and to fill out the short applications so that one of the nurse recruiters will contact them. So if you think about it, I'm leading them through a story-based email or story-based ad copy that calls them out, that identifies, the times that we're going through, the uncertainty of what's happening, and then yet if they're looking for an opportunity, this could be it. And so through that, we're able to advertise to nurses and lead them to take the next step. So for this next ad, I wanted to kind of share this with you because it kind of, the hook for this ad is really calling out to kids or to parents who have kids, and it leads with a question. And so one of the hooks that you could use in your ad copy is leading with the question. Now, the secret to this, and this is kind of a little extra little nugget that I'll share with you guys, is that if you lead with a question that implies a yes, then that basically psychologically what it does is it helps people get into a frame of mind where they're saying yes. So if that makes sense, like for example, looking for new and engaging activities for your kids and family. So as a parent who has young kids at home who have been home for the last month, if I read that ad, automatically I'm like, yes, I am. Because every day in some instances have been the same. I'm looking for things that I can do with my family. And I said, we've got you covered. From free resources and activities to music for the whole family, the parent bundle has got something for everyone. So right there, I kind of talk about what it is that we're offering it. It's the parent bundle. And what's inside of it is resources and activities that the whole family can do, which is essentially the problem that I'm trying to solve. And then I just kind of relate to him and I say, leading your family is challenging, exciting, and difficult, especially during this unprecedented time in history. We're here to help you, encourage you, and equip you along the way. And then I give him a very clear next step. Now, this is super key and super important because a lot of times when we do advertising, we don't tell people what we want them to do. And I think you need to tell them what you want them to do. And in this instance, it was click sign up to have this bundle sent to you right away. And so they know, for somebody who's looking for something to do with their family, they see this ad, they see the picture, they see the family, they see the kids, they see them working on stuff, they click sign up, and immediately we'll send them that information. And then we can kind of encourage them and help them take the next step. For this last ad, this is kind of the same, but it's a little bit different than the first ad because it's more direct and shorter and to the point. Or if you notice, I put these red dots here, these little red emojis. And the reason why I did that was because psychologically, you know, since we're kids, everybody who sees red, they automatically think, what, stop, right? And so if you're thinking about what they're doing when they're scrolling through their news feed, they see a red dot and they automatically in their mind, they think stop. And so not only do I do that, but then I put attention registered nurses. So this is my audience of people who I'm trying to reach. And then I tell them that they're invited to an exclusive RN hiring event for Canadian US nurses in Georgia. And then I kind of list out some of the details. And once again, I give them a very clear next step. Click learn more, which is the CTA button down here. And then through that, they can fill out a short application, and then one of the nurse recruiters will contact you. So through that, I wanted to share those examples with you, because if I go back, you know, we talk about the different hooks. Those are some different ways that you can kind of create, you know, some really concise and ways that you can connect with people with your Facebook ads and give them very specific next steps of what you want them to do. So I have another example, and this is a longer form ad that I was running. And to kind of give you a little bit of backstory of this, basically this was for an e-commerce product that I was able to help run some advertising for. And really what this is called is what's called an advertorial. An advertorial is basically an ad that reads not like an ad. It's positioned in a way where you're writing it and it really reads like a story. And then through that, though, it basically identifies like certain criterias and things within it that kind of help you imagine and rethink like about this particular product. And so what this is doing is this product itself is reusable paper towels. And so through this ad copy, basically it's talking about the problem is that you can spend a lot of money on paper towels and it can lead to a lot of waste. But we have a different opportunity or different product, and this product is reusable paper towels. Not only are they more eco-friendly, not only do they save you money, but you can reuse them. And so it kind of creates this difference where somebody's reading and they're like, you know what, yeah, you're right. Like I do spend a lot of money on paper towels. If I were to get something like this, I could probably reuse it and save money. And so that's kind of the angle and the hook that you use is we're looking for ways for people to save money and have reusable paper towels, and they're better for the environment. So you just kind of position it that way. So a few different ways and a few different ad examples. And when you combine all of these is when you can really set up a winning Facebook ad campaign. So you think about it, you think about who our audience is, you think about the different targeting that you can do, you think about the costs associated with Facebook ads, which honestly is way cheaper than any of the other, advertising platforms that are available to us, whether it's radio, whether it's TV, whether it's billboards, whether it's direct mail. I mean, I've had the opportunity to run all those different types of campaigns. And I can say that, running like a direct mail campaign can be extremely expensive, and you don't necessarily know what the ROI is on that. Especially when you send it off all the money to a printer, and you think to yourself, okay, I'm going to send this out. But then also too, you can put that money like Facebook ads, and then they can kind of have a little bit different, measurement success with data, understanding like how much of your audience you're going to reach. If you see that like the campaign's not performing very well within a few days, you can automatically just start to turn that off. And so this is kind of the if there was like a secret sauce or whatever that I've learned from over the years of running Facebook ads and managing Facebook ad campaigns, is really breaking it down into those steps of knowing who your audience is, knowing what their pain points are, understanding how to write this ad copy, understanding how to find them. And when you put it all together, that's kind of how you can set up a winning Facebook ad campaign. So what I'd like to do now is kind of just open it up for some Q&A. If you guys have questions, I'll answer them. And then also too, what I'd like to do as well is give you these slides. So if you want to go back through it, because I went through a lot of material. And so you can email me. This is my email address. And I'll give you these slides for free. I'm not asking for anything. I just want to kind of provide as much value, to you during this time because of what's happening I really am a big advocate of Facebook ads in small businesses. My dad owns a small business. My grandparents, growing up, own small businesses. And I just know the power of what digital marketing can do in Facebook ads. So I'll do two things. I'll give you these slides, and then I'm going to put together a more in-depth training. It'll be about 20 minutes, and I'll record it. And I'll actually walk you through the process of how to set up a Facebook ad campaign, because I didn't really go into that now, just because of time and complexity. And I felt like it'd probably be better if it could be recorded. But what I'll do is I'll record something. It'll be like 20 to 30 minutes or so. And then from there, I'll email that to you. You can have that for free as well. So if that's something that you would want, then you can just email me. It's adrianhummel@gmail.com. And I'll go ahead and open it up for any questions you guys have about this or anything else related to digital marketing. So Marshall asks, are your sign-up links taking you to a landing page on the website or to a file you have saved? So Marshall, the other part of it is also, with the landing pages. So you can create a landing page, and I can definitely go into that too if that is something that you guys are interested in. Is the landing pages that you create is definitely something that can really help out with the different types of campaigns that you run. If you run like a lead gen campaign, where you're trying to generate new email addresses, yes, you will need a landing page of where you're wanting to send people. And then on that landing page, you can describe like your offer and what people are going to get when they sign up. And the thing that I've learned, it's kind of interesting, but the thing that I learned and what was a turning point for me when it came to landing pages and creating offers is thinking about it from the perspective of like, what's in it for me, and not necessarily like me as the advertiser or business owner. I'm talking about what me is in the audience. And so you have to think about it from that perspective. They're going to be looking at it like, well, what's in this for me? And you can say like, you have to incentivize them, which you do, and that's just the reality of it. But you think about that from that perspective. When I started thinking about it from that lens of like, not like I want them to sign up because I want them to sign up. I want them to sign up because they need to sign up, and they have to think about it, what's in it for them. And so that's kind of when I noticed that, I saw like a dramatic increase in conversions from the landing pages. And then the other thing I saw too, and I had this explained one time in the past, and I thought it was really interesting, and it really put it in perspective. But if you get an invitation to a birthday party, and on the invitation itself, the whole theme of the birthday party is, let's say it's like a 1940s theme, and you look at the party, the invitation, you're like, oh, this is so cool. It's like a 1940s themed party. I got to like go get my 1940s themed gear, and we're going to have like 1940s like themed music and et cetera, and all this stuff. And then from there, you show up to the party, and like maybe like the party is like 1980s theme. You're going to be like, wait a minute, did we go to the wrong party? Like, what's going on? This doesn't match the invitation. So in that same way, your ad and your offer needs to match the landing page and the website that you're sending people to. You have to have that connection to where, like, if the ad is the invitation to the party and your website is the party, you need to have that connection between the two. Otherwise, people are going to click on the ad and they're not going to see, when they go to your website, they're going to look at it and be like, well, this doesn't look anything like the ad that I just saw. And so at that point, they're like, well, this isn't the party that I thought I was going to, and then they'll leave. But what we want them to do is you need to create that correlation there. And so that's another little trick that I've learned too, as far as like with landing pages, is making sure that it's all cohesive and correlated as well. So let me know if that answers your question, Marshall. So Tom has a question about targeted audience. He says, if you filter too much, will it reduce your reach, especially if you're a small shop in a small city? Assuming you're running a business where people will not travel more than 5 to 6 miles for the services you offer. So if they won't travel for more than 5 to 6 miles and you live in a small city, what would you say like the population size is of the city? Because and kind of how Facebook's cost works is that if you create an audience of say like 20,000 people, Facebook's going to charge you for a reach. It's called a cost per thousand people reached. So it's a CPM cost. And depending on what that CPM cost is, will determine how much your ads are. So if you're in a small city with a 5 to 6 mile radius, you can easily run Facebook ads for as little as $10 a day. And what will happen is because your audience is small, people will start to recognize and have brand recognition about your business. So for me, if I owned a business and I had like a physical store, I would run Facebook ads within a 2 mile radius of my store. I'd have weekly, different offers that I would give people to drive people to the store. And I would advertise it to anybody who came within a 2 to 3 mile, 4, 5, 6 mile radius of my store. Because what's going to happen is when they're at the red light or, at the gas station and they're scrolling on Facebook, they see the ad, they're going to see and they're going to recognize it. The other thing that I would do too, Tom, and kind of give you a little bit, you don't have to filter it too much. But what I would do is I would just record a video of yourself, and it doesn't have to be fancy. It doesn't have to be anything, special or polished think about it. We're on social media. So everybody's used to, looking at content that's created from their phone. Is record a video of yourself, just introducing who you are, what you do, and what you offer, and make those three things, kind of within the framework of what we talked about. And then you promote that within a 2 to 3 mile radius of your business, 4 mile radius of your business. Pretty soon, what's going to happen is you're going to be going out to the grocery store and somebody's going to come up to you and they're going to be like, "Hey, I saw you on Facebook." And I know that will happen because I ran campaigns in the past, where I've advertised locally, for a business, and the business owner was out and basically went to go pick up his kid from school, and the principal recognized him, and she was like, "I've seen you on my Facebook, like, tell me what you do," and it kind of opened up a conversation for him to explain a little bit about what he does. And so I made that connection. That was through like a little simple Facebook ad campaign. So hopefully that helps, Tom. Let me know if you have some more questions about that, and I can definitely kind of go in more detail about it. So Sandra asks, is there any benefit of ads with brief copy? The first ad example was quite lengthy, and I wonder if ROI numbers or stats that say it will be read or passed over. So this is what I like to do whenever I set up an ad. I like to test, because honestly, that's the only way you're going to know is what the data tells you. And so what I like to do is I like to test. I like to have a long version of an ad. I like to have a short version of an ad. And then I like to have about 2 to 3 different headlines. And then I like to have about 2 to 3 different pictures. And so what that does is it equips Facebook with enough resources so that it can do its work, and it can kind of do, focus on its like algorithm. And eventually what's going to happen is it'll find the perfect match for that audience. So it could very well be the long copy with the picture, or it could be the short copy with a different picture. And to me, I will tell you, oftentimes I am surprised by what converts the best, because sometimes I see a picture and I'm like, all right, that's definitely going to convert really well, for these ads. And then sometimes I'm completely shocked. And the thing is, I would say, is you never know until you try. I think the benefit of ads with brief copy is it's direct and to the point. But here's the key. If you're targeting somebody that has no idea who you are, and you give them brief copy, you have a very small window to build that rapport with them. Where if you have a longer copy, you can kind of tell a story, you can build rapport, you can create empathy, you can have a little bit of that relationship building through your copywriting that can then kind of help create some familiarity with your business. So when I say test, I mean like within the ad itself, you can, so if you have your audience of like 20,000 people that you've defined, and you want to test which words work better, with that audience, and then from there you can kind of test that way, so that's kind of what I'd say with like a focus group. It is like your audience when you're running ads. I would say it's very the equivalent of that is very similar to a focus group, because you're testing your data within it. Then you look at the data and you say, okay, like this headline with this ad has a lower cost per click. And so typically Facebook will optimize its platform and algorithm for whatever's performing best, because you got to think about it from Facebook's perspective. They want to create the best experience for their users, but they also want to generate the biggest return for their advertisers, because if advertising on Facebook didn't exist, then the platform itself couldn't exist. And so it's kind of like they're kind of, but at the same time too, if Facebook doesn't have the users on there, then it couldn't, there's no place for people to advertise. Like they're advertising, there wouldn't be any people on there. So that's why it's kind of like a little tricky spot in the middle they got to play. Jim asks, is there a better way or a better day of the week to run a Facebook ad? So I never start a Facebook ad campaign on Friday. I always start Facebook ads on Mondays. And typically what I find is like starting a campaign on Monday typically does really well. And then it just depends day to day. It could vary. So that'd be the only thing I would say about that. Is there an ideal duration to keep an ad running before switching it up? Yeah. So Kayla asked that. What I like to do is I like to look at a 14-day window, and then I like to look at a 7-day window, and then I look at a 3-day window to optimize. So what that means is basically my main metric and goal I'm monitoring is on a 14-day window. So if I look at 14 days and I see that my key performance indicators are fine, then I'm good. Like it tells me that like the campaign's healthy. If I look at a 7-day window and I start to see, okay, like my KPIs are starting to drop a little bit, then I'm like, okay, this is just something I need to be aware of. Then if I look at a 3-day window and I'm like, okay, these are starting to drop even more, then I start to think about what can I change up? What do I need to switch? Because eventually you will run into what's called ad fatigue. And ad fatigue is basically just saying that like, you just need to switch up something, whether you switch up your copy, whether you switch up your creative, something in that needs to change. And the numbers usually tell you kind of what that is. And so for me, I kind of look at those windows, 14 days, 7 days, and then 3 days. And then if I look at 3 days and I actually see that, you know, my stats are doing really well, then what I'll do is I'll usually increase my ad spend, because Facebook is, it can be a very profitable platform. Once you dial in everything, it becomes and you have like a product or service or a business, you can use Facebook to grow your business exponentially in a short time once you have everything dialed in. And I think that's kind of the from a business perspective and a business owner, that's kind of the thing that is very appealing about Facebook advertising, is just the opportunity to use it to grow your business. But then there is some uncertainty and a little bit of fear, because like, what if this doesn't work? And so my hope is that what I shared with you today kind of takes away from that fear, so you don't necessarily have that. So let's see, I got a couple more questions. And then Caitlin says, is Facebook and Instagram connected? Does the uploading emails and the code you can put on your website work for Instagram as well? Yes. So Instagram is basically a placement that you can choose to advertise on. So on the back end of your platform, when you're setting it up, and I'll go through this in the tutorial that I'll make for you guys. And if you want that, like I said, you can just email me and I'll send it to you. But Instagram essentially is a platform that you advertise on. And so what it is that whenever you're choosing to select your placements of where you want your ads to show up, Facebook will, Instagram will show up as one of those placements. And so then that way you can upload your audience of your email list, your contacts, you know, your customers, and then you can promote and advertise to them on Instagram. So yeah. And then the code is just basically, it's a piece of a code that you can put on your website. So so we have about 5 minutes left, and I know we were going to do something. Let me see if, I think Michael had to leave. Laura is here as well. Laura, did we want to kind of do the drawing now?
Yes, we did. I unmuted everybody, so
Yeah, go fast.
let me mute them back. Okay, Adrian,
Okay.
yes, we did. We have a drawing for an email or a Facebook ad. And I think I muted you. I'm sorry, I'm not very good at this. The first time I've done this.
Oh, no, it's fine. I got it. I'm unmuted.
Sorry.
So just out of curiosity, does everybody know about the drawing?
I don't even know how to play Boo.
What did he say?
Y'all are unmuted. We're having a drawing. Do you all know about the drawing?
Yeah.
No.
Tell us again.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll let you explain that.
The drawing is for a Facebook ad.
Yeah, Facebook ad credit.
Yes, we'll get you a Facebook ad credit in the future. Michael didn't give me a date. He just told me that that's what the drawing was.
Okay. So do we know how we want to do this?
I have everybody's name in a hat.
Awesome.
Let me reach in the hat and I'll pull out a name. Got a name. And it is for Marshall.
Oh.
So Marshall.
Marshall, where are you? Are you still?
Yeah, there he is. Yeah, Marshall Kriegel. I think I hope I
Yes.
said your last name right. So, well, congratulations, Marshall.
Marshall, you won. Contact the chamber.
That's exciting. Yeah, he's on there. He's on here. I see him. He's muted right now. So, well, I hope everybody was able to get some value out of today's insight and training when it comes to Facebook ads. You know, the thing I would say just to kind of encourage you is that, you know, it is possible. You know, if for whatever reason, if the Facebook ads platform, if the advertising seems kind of, intimidating or, you know, like there is a little bit of a learning curve, but, you know, with anything, it's like, it's definitely a great tool that you can use to leverage to grow your business, to reach people in your community. You know, to be honest, there was a time a few years ago where we lost our cat. You know, like our cat got out of her house, and what I did is I ran a Facebook ad in our community, and I didn't spend much. I think I spent like $40, and I just advertised to everybody in our community. And you would be surprised how many comments I got and phone calls because I put my phone number on there and I said, hey, here's a picture of my cat. He got out, you know, on Tuesday night. You know, I haven't seen him. If you see my cat, can you please text or call me? And I got phone calls and they're like, I think I just saw your cat. He's over here. I live like right across the street. So like I run over there. And so like you can use it for all sorts of things, but definitely, you know, look into it. And like I said, if you're interested, I'll kind of give you like a video overview of how to set up some ads. So.
For your customer.
Yes. Awesome. Well, if there's nothing else, then I want to respect everybody's time. I know we're getting closer to the weekend. So I'll end the presentation here. Like I said, my email address is here. If you want these slides, email me. If you want that video training, feel free to email me. And it looks like we're recording this too. So I imagine there might be recording later on if we want to rewatch it. So, all right. Well, you guys have a wonderful, yeah, of course. Of course.
It's so informative. We really appreciate you being on here with us today.
Yeah, of course. So, well, you guys have a great afternoon and I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thank you, Adrian. You all have a good night. Bye.